Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Foundry by Forge College. First off, I just want to say a massive congratulations. You all absolutely crushed the capstone final summary submission. That is a huge milestone, so seriously take a second to pat yourselves on the back. But you know we're not stopping there, right? Today, we are officially kicking off a brand new track in our Bitcoin Fundamentals series, and we're diving straight into understanding Nakamoto Consensus. I am so excited for this one because, honestly, this is where the real magic happens. This is where all those abstract individual pieces we've been studying finally click together into something incredible. So, up until now, you've been looking at the raw ingredients of Bitcoin. Things like cryptographic hashes and digital signatures. We talked about how proof of work makes it literally too expensive to rewrite history, and how signatures keep your transactions locked down. But how do those raw ingredients actually build a functional system that doesn't have a boss? That's our goal today. We're going to see exactly how we move from isolated math puzzles to a single, globally shared ledger that just hums along entirely without a central coordinator or CEO calling the shots. All right, here is our blueprint for today. We're going to hit the decentralized agreement problem, lay out the core rules of consensus, take a little detour to look at cairns on a trail, map out the consensus workflow, and finally wrap up with assumptions and security.
Okay, Section 1, the decentralized agreement problem.
Imagine trying to run a massive global company, but there's no CEO, there's no board of directors, no management team at all to enforce the rules. How on earth do thousands of competing, totally independent computers agree on a single shared history of transactions? That is the major technical hurdle we have to clear here. Because remember, we are dealing with messy real-world stuff. Network delays, malicious attackers, competing blocks being proposed at the exact same time all around the globe. How do we ensure that every honest computer on this network eventually looks at the exact same sequence of blocks and goes, yep, this is the official truth? Let's move on to Section 2, the core rules of consensus. To solve this massive coordination nightmare, we need a flawless blueprint. The formal definition of Nakamoto Consensus is, and brace yourself, it's a mouthful, a probabilistic leader election and fork choice mechanism that lets decentralized participants agree on canonical transaction history. I know, right? That sounds incredibly intimidating. It sounds like a textbook, but stick with me here because I promise we're going to make this completely intuitive in just a second. Behind all that jargon, it really just boils down to these three interlocking pieces. First up is proof of work. This is the costly effort. It's the physical electricity and hardware burned to create a block, acting kind of like an unforgeable stamp of real-world energy. Second, the longest chain rule, or more accurately, the heaviest chain. This is a brilliant, super simple local math decision. When a node sees two valid chains competing, it just calculates which one has the most accumulated proof of work and goes with that one. No debate needed. And third, incentives. Miners are economically rewarded for playing by the rules and building on the chain that everyone else accepts. When you snap these three pieces together, they naturally keep everyone entirely honest, without anyone having to be in charge. All right, Section 3, cairns on a trail. Okay, let's drop the heavy computer science jargon for a minute. We keep throwing around this phrase, probabilistic finality. But what does that actually feel like? Let's try to bridge the gap between this intimidating tech terminology and a totally relatable mental model, just so you can truly visualize how this network locks itself down. Think of the blockchain as a steep, rugged mountain trail. In this scenario, an exhausted traveler on the trail is our miner. Every few minutes, a traveler expends massive physical energy to gather heavy rocks and stack a cairn. You know, those little rock piles that mark a hiking trail? That sweat and effort is our proof of work. Now, what happens if two travelers place a cairn at the exact same time in slightly different spots? Well, we get a fork in the trail, which in Bitcoin terms is a network reorganization. And how do the hikers coming up behind them know which way to go? Easy. They just look for the path with the most accumulated cairns. The most traveled, heavily stacked path represents our longest valid chain. And this is exactly what brings us to confirmation depth. Remember, finality in Bitcoin isn't instant, it's probabilistic. If you see a single new cairn placed on the trail, yeah, some rogue hiker can easily run up and kick it over. The finality is low. But if you wait around and watch 6 more hikers stack huge piles of rocks right on top of it, creating this deep, undeniably heavy path, well, that first stone becomes practically permanent. An attacker would literally have to expend an impossible amount of physical labor to knock down all those rocks and build an entirely new, longer path just to trick you. Basically, every new block drastically reduces the risk of the transaction being reversed. Our hiking analogy also perfectly explains network reorgs. Take a look at the left side, a short reorg. This is just a natural, temporary hiccup. A few hikers got confused, started a slight detour, but pretty quickly realized the main path was heavier, so they just turned around and rejoined the group. No big deal. But the right side, that's a deep reorg. That is not an accident. That would be a deliberate, highly malicious attack where a coordinated group decides to expend a mind-boggling amount of labor to completely reroute the mountain trail and trick everyone into following the wrong path.
Moving right along to section 4, the consensus workflow.
Since we're all about practical application here, let's map our goofy mountain trail back to the actual step-by-step reality of the network. Here is the exact life cycle. Step 1. You create a transaction and broadcast it to the network. Nothing crazy yet. Step 2. Miners scoop up your transaction and bundle it into what's called a candidate block. Step 3. This is where our hikers start sweating and stacking rocks. Miners furiously calculate hashes until one lucky node discovers a valid proof of work. Step 4. That brand new block is broadcast and every single node strictly validates it to make sure no rules were broken. Finally, Step 5. Chain selection. Nodes look at their local chains, apply that longest chain rule we talked about, and adopt the heaviest branch. And then, the cycle just repeats, continuously weaving tighter and tighter probabilistic finality into the network.
Which brings us to our final section, number 5, assumptions and security.
Now, as incredibly elegant as this system is, it isn't pure magic. It actually relies on some fundamental underlying truths to keep humming along safely without collapsing into total chaos. The absolute most important assumption here is majority honest mining power. The honest participants simply must collectively outcompute the bad actors, period. Because if an adversary somehow manages to control more than 50% of the network's hashing power, they essentially have way more hikers building rocks than the honest side. They can probabilistically outpace the good guys, create a heavier counterfeit chain, and violently rewrite history. The entire security model demands that 51% or more of the computing power remains honest. But, beyond that 51% rule, there are a couple of other invisible guardrails keeping us on the track. We absolutely need bounded message propagation delays. That's a fancy way of saying the global internet needs to be fast enough so blocks can spread quickly. If the network is too laggy, honest miners will accidentally start working on different blocks, and you would get constant, confusing forks. We also rely on the independence and unpredictability of miners, meaning there shouldn't be some centralized master switch that forces miners to instantly coordinate a malicious attack together. They need to act like independent actors.
And that brings us to the fascinating trade-off of time. Why does Bitcoin specifically target a 10-minute block interval? Well, think back to the trail. If we force hikers to place a rock too fast, say every single minute, everyone gets confused, the network can't synchronize across the globe, and you end up with constant forks and chaos. On the flip side, if we place them too slowly, like every 60 minutes, the network becomes painfully sluggish. You'd be waiting hours just to securely buy a cup of coffee. 10 minutes really is the Goldilocks zone. It perfectly balances the massive effort required to secure the chain with the time the global network needs to properly synchronize. So, to wrap things up today, here are the major takeaways you need to hold on to. Number 1, finality in this system is probabilistic. It's not instant. Every new block just makes history harder and harder to reverse. Number 2, consensus naturally emerges from super simple local rules paired with powerful economic incentives. No one is manually directing traffic. And finally, the security of this entire multi-trillion-dollar network strictly rests on the assumption of a majority honest hashing power. By the way, if you want to dive deeper into this and continue your Web3 learning journey, make sure to visit forge.college to explore a ton of other explainers and resources from the Foundry by Forge College. But all of this leaves us with a pretty massive lingering mystery. We know exactly how it works now, but why? Why did Satoshi Nakamoto choose these specific design trade-offs and parameters in the very beginning? What were the real-world historical constraints that forced these completely brilliant decisions? Well, that is exactly what we're going to uncover in our next lesson. So until then, keep stacking those Karens, and I will see you next time.